Hi, welcome to the Ruckus Feature Explainer series. Today we're going to look at Ruckus Unleashed in gateway mode. So what that allows us to do is to run the Unleash master with DHCP server and NAT in order to NAT your client devices out to the internet, for example. So let's have a look at what the topology looks like. So what we're going to do is configure the Unleash master as the gateway mode AP. And so once this is done, this is the only device that will be master. So it's going to have two interfaces on it. Well, usually at least. So there's a WAN interface which goes to the internet. So it's the outside of the NAT. And then there's a LAN interface, which is the inside. So the LAN and WAN will be in two different subnets. Now, that's not necessarily true. So if you only have one AP and you just want to NAT the wireless users off of that AP, then that's fine. Then just the one interface connected to the WAN is all you need. But if you have multiple APs or switches or internal wired devices that need to be NATed, then you're going to have to use those two interfaces. So in this case, we have our master AP, which we'll configure. That's connected to an ICX switch, and then there's two other APs which are going to connect through this master. So all of the clients connected to these APs and this wired switch and its clients are all going to be NATed out to the internet. Okay, so let's have a look at how that works. So we will just open our browser, and so this is a factory fresh Unleashed AP. So in this case, it's running version 200.8. And so we're just going to walk through the wizard. So an important thing to note is that this needs to be done, gateway mode needs to be done at the beginning. It's a pretty critical part of the installation. So we're just going to run, give it a name, Unleashed. We don't need to use mesh. Mesh is a different video altogether. So this is where we configure gateway mode. So this checkbox here is gateway mode. So once we check that, it shows us the picture here of port 1 and port 2 and how we want to configure it. So we can choose which one is the WAN port and which one is the LAN port. So WAN port is defaulting to port 2, which is the non-PoE port, so that's fine with me. I'm going to leave it there. And then port 1, or the internal LAN, is going to be the PoE port. And so that's how I'm going to leave it. But make sure you know which one is which. If you get these backwards, it's never going to work, right? So you can change it here. It will let you change it, so if you want to do that, do it now. But in my case, I'm going to leave it as the default. WAN is port 2. Okay, so that's that. Then it wants to know your LAN and WLAN IP addresses. Okay, so this guy is going to be your LAN address, which is 192.168.2.1 in my case. You can make it anything you want, but as long as it's not, the same subnet as the outside, right? The LAN and WAN have to be different subnets, as I said. So I'm gonna make this 2.1, and then it has decided to build the DHCP scope as 192.168.2.2 all the way, and then you can choose how many addresses you want in that scope, right? So I will make my ending IP 192.168.2.100, which is going to give me 99 available addresses, right? So my router is .1, and then all of the guys on devices on this subnet on 2.2 up to 2.100 are all going to use 2.1 as their default gateway. You can choose the lease time, so we'll set that to a day. I like to set it as a day. And then the WAN address, you can, normally this is DHCP, right? Your internet router is going to give it a DHCP address. But you can set that to manual if you want. It's up to you. So I will set it to manual. I'm going to set that to 192.168.1.185 with my mask. 1.1 will be my gateway. 192.168.1.1 is my primary DNS, and then I'll set a secondary DNS 1.1.1.1. So that's all I have to do from that perspective. So what it's going to do is this is going to be my outside or my WAN address. It's possible this is a publicly routed internet address, but normally it's not. Normally it's an address given out by your internet router, whether that's via DHCP or manual. And then the inside address, excuse me, the LAN is 2.1. So we'll next that. It wants you to set up an SSID. So as always, make sure you secure that. We'll say next. Set up your password for the admin user. You can set up password recovery if you want. And then lastly, you can review your settings and finish. So it's going to restart after I click finish here. So that is going to take a few minutes to set up, and it certainly does. It needs to configure the system and reboot. And then what should happen after this comes back up is the other devices, the other Unleashed devices, should auto detect this one and get an IP address from it, right? Because they're connected to the inside interfaces. So they should get a 2 dot whatever IP address and add themselves into the Unleashed. So we'll have a look at that in a second when it comes back up. Okay, so my master finished rebooting. Then I plugged in the switch and the other two APs into the LAN interface and waited for them to configure themselves and bring themselves online. So we will just have a login here and see what that looks like. So we have 3 access points working. And so I have my master here, and then I have 2 other ones, right? And so if I have a look at admin and services and IP settings here, it shows me what I set up before. So basically what my 2 ports are, what my WAN port is, what my router IP is, the scope, etc. You can see DHCP assigned addresses and reserved addresses. So if you need to reserve an address for DHCP, you can do that there. You can also configure gateway services on the WAN port here. So what you want to protect on the internal, right? So HTTP and HTTPS is allowed. However, ICMP ping, SSH, and radius is not allowed to that WAN interface, so the outside interface, only to the LAN interface. And then you can configure port forwarding down here. So if you want to configure a port open from the WAN interface to the LAN, this is how you would do it here. But basically, that's pretty much it. So if you connect to the wireless, whether it be on this master or on the other 2 APs, it's going to NAT that address and give you a DHCP on the 2.x network, right, as opposed to the WAN. And even if we look at these APs, so if I show the system overview on these APs, you'll see that they were given 2 addresses. So 192.168.2.32, and this guy here is 2.48. So they were given 2 addresses from the DHCP server of this master. So one other thing to point out, as I said before, is you cannot change who that master is, right? That master has a critical role in the network at this point. And it's not able to be changed. So you can't set a preferred master, for example, and the master's not going to fail over, right? Because this is the device, your current master here is doing the NAT, and it has the 2 interfaces connected to the WAN and LAN. There's no ability to actually have that, fail over, because the physical ports are not going to fail over. But anyway, easy as that, right? So pretty easy to set up a NAT and DHCP server in Unleashed, and it works very well. So yeah, that's it for today, and have a great day. Thanks very much.